Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle, me, in my series Freemasonry and Satanism. This video will be a continuation of this book, The Three Sevens, a story of initiation, ancient cults. Ancient initiation. Founders of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Atlantis. Together with an introduction by a neophyte of the 8th priesthood. So a neophyte would be somebody who's being initiated and reaching the highest degree of initiation. Becoming one of the teachers, gurus, and leaders of these cults. And extensive notes exemplifying occult laws. So it's not me saying these things, by R. Swineborn Clymer, M.D. So this isn't supposed to be fiction. It's supposed to be non-fiction, a story of the truth as these cultists, I use the word witchcraft so people can understand it better, people and entities, I think there's more than just humans on this planet, entities that understand nature's laws. Laws that probably people running our world and in charge of the CERN collider in Switzerland with the Shiva goddess out front, the goddess of destruction, and 666 in the logo representing the beast, and the beast of course would be the cast out angel from heaven, Lucifer. And how did I find this book? I go on Abe Books or other used book sites, or Amazon or New Books, and they allow you to search by the publisher, the Philosophical Publishing Company. So if you just put that in there, you're not going to know what you're going to find. It can be quite interesting, like my find on this book. Copyright 1938, the Philosophical Publishing Company, Quakertown, PA. Quakertown, Pennsylvania. That's interesting. And here's this guy's membership card with symbolism all over it. Circle of Isis. And then the snake eating its tail with the planet, so-called, and wings around it. There. So all kinds of occult symbolism. Facsimile of membership card held by R. Swineborn Clymer. Dr. Clymer became a member of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Atlantis, Luxor, and Elefante in 1900. In 1908, the Hermetic Brotherhood became a member of the Confederation of Initiates. Registered, and all authority was vested in said organization. So it's been a fascinating read so far, and I thought I would continue on with some of the details of these occult organizations, things that we don't know, but it might behoove us to know. Alright, here we go, page 80, chapter 4. Pay attention to the details, the things I say here when I read this, if you want to learn a little bit about the occult. While sitting one evening by myself, the tropical moon shining in all of its fervency and lighting up the whole interior of my apartment, I remember my Guru's words about the coin. I took it in my right hand, adjusting my body comfortably in a reclining altitude. I fixed my gaze upon it. Almost instantly, a little thrill passed over me. Then came the feeling of lightness with which I was already familiar. A moment later, my astral body was looking at the grosser bodily vesture as it lay immovable and stolid upon the couch. They call it a divan. This was attached to me by a bright cord running from the coin to myself in some indefinable way through the body. So these people who get initiated learn how to astral travel, leave their body. Going down the long flight of steps, I went to the fountain in the garden and sat down to think. As I mused, the whirling noises of which I had been so dimly conscious in my first journey became more and more distinct, until I could hear the converse of the unseen. So apparently there's a lot of noise or conversation or commotion going on in the world of the unseen, the invisible reality, the non-physical reality. Entities, creatures if you will, some of them called pixies, cherubim mentioned in the Bible. The one cherubim with the sword turning it every which way to keep anybody out of the Garden of Eden where the tree of life is protected. The Garden of Eden is where Adam and Eve ate of the tree of knowledge, who was instigated by the snake. And Eve said, we can't eat of that tree. God said, no, and we will die. And the snake said, surely you will not die. God's not telling you the truth. And so they ate of the tree of knowledge, and apparently realized, Adam and Eve, that they were naked, so they ran into the bushes to cover themselves up with leaves. And strolling down into the garden was God calling out, Adam, Eve, where are you? And they whispered from the bushes, we're in the bushes, we're hiding because we're naked. And God says, well, who told you you were naked? Did you eat of the tree of knowledge? So they were cast out of the Garden of Eden, and a cherubim was put in charge to guard the entryway with a sword, swishing every which way so nobody could get in. So they couldn't go to the tree of knowledge, now that tree of life, and have everlasting life, like they ate of the tree of knowledge and learned things that God, I guess, didn't want them to know for their own sake. We can see where the knowledge has gotten us now. And now these cults say they want to, whatever kind of cult they are, Illuminati, Freemasons, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Rosicrucians, Zionism. They want to set us free from our bondage of these bodies. How kind of them to want to set our souls free with the excuse they say we're suffering in these bodies. I think the only reason we're suffering is because they're causing all kinds of pain and suffering on this planet. These elitist secret society cults. So anyways, he could hear the converse of the unseen. The term astral, to signify the soul, is not now generally used by the Rosy Cross. So you got the Rosicrucians right here in this book. And schools of initiates. Earlier writers made use of it because it seemed to be more readily understood by the student. While the body is active, the soul is held in bondage and sees as through a glass darkly. So they think that my soul is in bondage to this body. When the soul has become conscious, the body, through long training, can be momentarily forgotten. And with vision unimpeded, the doors of the soul realm are opened in the sight. The soul does not leave the body, but while the body remains in a passive state, It can span the spaces, limited only by its degree of consciousness, which is depending on the extent and success of the training it has undergone. So anyways, reading on, it was a direct ray from him of the 7 builders who were in charge. But beyond the guarded precincts came the sounds to my unveiled ear, which had first attracted my attention. Misty masses, constantly on the move, shaped themselves to my vision as ungainly forms, creatures whose horror would overcome the stoutest heart. Monsters, unfinished or half-made up, creatures of helpless malignance, jostled each other, while out of their malevolent thought they hurled vain words of terrible import and design at me, so amply protected by the barrier, at once transparent, to them impassable, long since firmly set about the temple grounds. So in this invisible reality, the astral plane, monsters, unfinished, half-made up creatures of helpless malignance, jostled each other, while out of their malevolent thought they hurled vain words of terrible import and design at me, so amply protected by the barrier, at once transparent and to them impassable, long since firmly set about the temple grounds. We could pass to them, but they cannot come to us. Secure for a few moments, I watched the impotent hate of the hostile races who detest the good, and all his creatures, and especially man. So as I've been saying, these entities in this other realm detest the good, and all creatures, and especially man. So man has an enemy. People who are entities, I won't call them people, entities who are jealous of God's creation, man, of whose unbridled rebellious will these are the creations. They are a wonderfully prolific cause of misery and suffering to mankind, and one which he little suspects. And most people, most people, don't even know these entities exist. And in the Bible, at least a dozen times, Jesus is known to cast out unclean spirits and demons from people. These people do want to try to possess people on earth so they can live vicariously in this material plane. And usually when they possess somebody, it can be quite a horrible situation. If anybody's ever seen movies and stuff like that about people being possessed, like The Exorcist. And I suspect these are the entities that are the aliens and UFOs. And I suspect some of these entities have managed to possess people and probably are responsible for the people possessed and maybe half reptilian creatures, and part of the witchcraft and other satanic cults of sacrificing humans, which releases their soul when you kill somebody. And maybe they're feeding these souls to these creatures who hate mankind. Just speculating. But as we read, I may not be speculating far off here. Satisfied with my experiment, so he's out of his body, he goes downstairs, and he gets to see these horrible creatures all around him. Satisfied with my experiment, I willed to return to my sleeping body. A little constriction, a sense of falling, like the changes of a dream, I found myself once more in the position of gazing at the coin. So he winds up back in his room, gazing at the coin. Some notes on the bottom of this page. It is such visions as these that confront those who open the door into the astral realms before they are fully prepared. Since they are not prepared, they are frozen with horror, nor can they again close the door. No one should attempt to cross the threshold until he has been found worthy and has been fully and thoroughly prepared. Then the soul sight is protected, and the door will open and close without danger of fear and shock. So I guess you could just die of fright if you weren't prepared for this. Beware of all who represent that they will lead students across the threshold. There's lots of videos right now telling people they're God and to practice yoga and meditation to go into this world. And I've got other books that from people who experience it and tell how dangerous it is, including government-trained remote viewers who leave their body. For all that the greatest teacher can do is prepare the student for the ordeal. Then when properly prepared, the door will open, and the terror has become the protector instead of the tempter. Reading back into this initiate's experience, the next morning my guru, on meeting me, addressed me at once. Thou didst well, my brother, not to adventure further. So the guru was aware that he had looked at the coin, went down into the bottom of the castle, had this experience, and went back to his room. The full of the moon is not a favorable season for weak travelers to begin their excursions into the borderlands of the earth. One more month had winged its way. Our studies had brought us to the point where organized force, unintelligent of itself, could be made to serve man. Organized force, unintelligent of itself, could be made to serve man. So these people who belong to the secret societies, mystery schools of Babylon, etc., witchcraft organization lodges, can control these organized forces and entities to serve man, to serve them. Was so masterful of himself and his environment as to be able to demand it, the teacher said. In the earlier ages of the world, before man had sworn allegiance to the physical, thereby enslaving his best and highest self, he had dominance over the creeping things and malformed monsters of immense force. By their strength and enforced labor, they piled up the immortal monuments of antiquity, whose ruins even surpass the noblest structures that man has since been able to erect without their help. So are they talking about the pyramids and the Great Sphinx, the big stones at Baalbek in Lebanon, and monuments all over the world? Were people who were trained to leave their bodies controlling these monstrous creatures able to construct these great monuments, like Atlantis or Hyperborea or other ancient, long-forgotten societies? Do you suppose that our brotherhood, whose not here numbers but 15 in the visible, could have hewn this temple out of solid rock, to say nothing of the beautifying and adoring and fitting it for its intended purpose by the labor of our hands only? So the guru is asking the initiate, do you think we built this gigantic hall inside the middle of a mountain with our hands? And the guru says, not in a million years. When I tell you we have been here only since Atlantis fell, from one of whose provinces we escaped, you will conclude that we have had other help. You have courage and discretion. Come with me. So the story's being told in this book, 3 Sevens, the story of ancient initiation. And I suspect, and it seems from what I've read, everything from Helena Blavatsky's The Secret Doctrine, Morals and Dogma from Albert Pike, the leader of the southern jurisdiction of the United States of the Scottish Freemasonry, who was a general between the North and the South, and wrote books on the Rosicrucian, and many other books I've gone over. I think we're getting a better bird's eye view here of what's behind the scenes and what these monuments are, if this is true, and who the so-called aliens and the craft they have are. There are secrets and probably secret societies and even secret cities on planet Earth that they don't want we the people to be aware of. So it seems. Through purified effort, some notes here on the bottom, and conscious desire, man may become the master of these forces. It is a task not for a month nor for a year, and it requires tireless effort and constant vigilance, and through full purpose be not accomplished in the present lifespan, such advancement as it achieve contributes its lasting values. So this thing goes on for more than one lifetime, and we know from what I've been studying, at least a couple of 100 years, the Illuminati has been preparing for a new world order. Even Albert Pike in the 1880s said that 3 world wars would be required to bring about this new world order. And apparently these people have the kinds of knowledge and support and control over some interdimensional kinds of monsters and beings. That's something to know, I think. Life is truly a school, and this is true to a particular extent in the occult sense. Just reading my highlighted portions here. Page 82. Through an immense arched doorway was in process of construction a hall whose vastness forced physical man to his relative condition of pygmyhood. So he's in this gigantic hall, just a man like me, and it's inside of a mountain, and it's just immense. And they're using these creatures to hollow out the stone. My guru told me that it was exactly in the heart of the mountain, and when finished would be for the convocation of all the brotherhood throughout the world. All the brotherhood throughout the world. That would be Freemasonry, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Rosicrucians, Illuminati, probably the Zionists, Jesuits, and all the other witchcraft mystery schools on the planet, Bilderberger groups, Bohemian Grove, Club of Rome, all kinds of names. I got a book on that recently in the mail. I'll go over that. Thousands of these brotherhood organizations throughout the world. Over there in China, Japan, India, Russia, Europe, Africa, South America, Mexico, Central America, United States, Canada. Brotherhoods, secret societies. Throughout the world for their instruction in the manifestation of the unseen, wherever its influence can be perceived in all the spheres of the infinite. Wow, there's a sentence. So they got this gigantic hall. It's going to be used for convocations, like conventions, of all the brotherhood throughout the world, and for their instruction in the manifestation of the unseen. So they're going to manifest of the unseen, whatever its influence can be perceived in all the spaces of the infinite. Now we probably can understand what CERN is all about, opening up those portals. It had the shape of an immense sphere, flattened at the poles. The solid rock was above, below, and all around. And what to us would be the path of the elliptic was a broad vein of gold, passing entirely around the broadest diameter. So inside this gigantic hall, you could see a vein of gold in the walls. The virgin gold shone and glittered in the light from nowhere that made all things visible. There was in sight enough treasure to have brought outright the richest empire upon the earth's surface. Here it had no value, any more than the other cumbering masses. It served its purpose as an interior decoration, that and nothing more. These wise ones had no need to buy that which was all their own. So it seems like these people think they own the planet also. Gold in the vocabulary used by the alchemist is a symbol of the light of the illumined soul. So they use gold as a symbol for the illuminated soul. And if you're watching this video and some other ones I've made lately, you might be becoming a little bit illumined, a little bit more knowledgeable about reality, for at least what these people think reality is. And I'm not necessarily saying all this is true. And actually, I used my pendulum, asking the higher power what percentage of this book was true. And it says about 50%. Whether you believe that stuff or not. But I do check some books, and like The Secret Doctrine from Helena Blavatsky or Morals and Dogma, it said that 66% was false. Both books. Which kind of amazed me, 66. So are they deceiving the people who go to these mystery schools? I believe that the deity and the person that these people that get initiated, who they worship, is Lucifer, the angel that was cast out of heaven. And it says that to some degree in this book. Just FYI. For those who watch my video and leave little angry comments that it's all lies, I'm agreeing that this book does have deceptive information in it. But it is what they think and what they teach. And 50% of it apparently is true. So I guess it's up to me, in understanding what I read in the Bible and other books, what's true and what's false. It is into this priceless value that the aspirant sinks to transmute the base metals of his lower nature. His labors require that he cast out the corruptible, the elements of his animal nature, and through the fires of love and service, purify and refine the gross and degrading until transmutation has blended all into a higher consciousness responsive to divine law. So they say the initiates have to transform themselves to animal-like creatures into higher consciousness responsive to divine law. Humanity has lost the true significance of the symbol, and to mankind the shadow has become the substance. In the midst of this illusion, the emblem itself has been enthroned as an idol, and upon its altar, the nobility and beauty of man's nature has been sacrificed. These wise ones had no need to buy that which was all their own. I said that. Did they have occasion for anything from the great storehouse of the unmanifested? Theirs was the potency which could bring it into the visible. The ordinary processes of life faded into nothingness before the dominance of the will. So about 2/3 of the space needed was already hollowed out. Two of the Brotherhood, clad in usual white robes, stood calmly by as if overseeing. In their hands they held wands made up of some dark flexible material resembling ebony. Be like white bone stuff, ebony. A word or signal passed between them. So these guys, like on a Harry Potter movie, have these wands. Remember, this is a ancient initiation, a Rosicrucian type of secret society. This isn't a Harry Potter book here, a fiction story, apparently. It's a story about ancient initiation. And the secret societies are in all of our cities and states and countries all over the world, bringing about all this stuff. The people belonging to these societies, even like the skull and bones of George Bush, bringing about 9/11, World War I, World War II, and all this chaos and anarchy. They need to bring about World War III, as Albert Pike and as George Bush Sr. said, out of chaos and anarchy will come the New World Order, a rule of law, but a law that serves them, not us. Remember, they think we're animals, cattle. Profane. So anyways, these two guys, a word or signal passed between them, moving to the outer circumference at opposite points. They simultaneously directed their wands forward. At the same instant, a stream of fire, blinding as a lightning's flash, struck the apparently impenetrable rock. Huge fragments, as the result, covered the floor with debris. So they're aiming these wands at the ceiling and at the walls, and they're blasting rock free. That's interesting to know. Is this stuff true? This is what they teach initiates. Then, out of the further gloom, get this, two monstrous shapes define themselves. So two monstrous beings. Seizing the huge blocks, they bored them out of the hall by a tunnel perforated for that purpose. Where has all the rubbish been carried, was the question in my mind. Come and see, was my Giru's answer to my unvoiced question. So apparently the Giru can read his mind. Following the elementals. So they call these monstrous beings elementals. Go look up but Yahoo Images, there's a website, and plug in elementals. Or cherubim, divas, pixies, angels, demons, Moloch, Lucifer, Satan, witchcraft, Illuminati, Zionist, Ra, Isis, Osiris, Horus. And you'll see similarities over and over and over. Following the elementals who were just entering the tunnel with a splinter of rock, tons in weight, we were obliged to walk rapidly to keep them in sight. The passage ended abruptly at an immense cliff, sinking down perpendicularly into the bowels of the earth. Into this the burden bearers flung immense mass of rock. So these gigantic monsters were going through a tunnel and throwing the rock down over the ravine. Down, down amidst the reverberating echoes. It thundered and roared for 2 full minutes. And this was succeeded by the sloughing, sobbing, deepening by regular intervals into a long silence. Some notes on the bottom of this page. This allegorical incident veils a disclosure of the power of concentrated will, consciously directed. The wands is of ebony to signify the darkness of imagination molded into form. So would they be black wands? Directed by trained will towards a focus, it becomes a magic wand capable of the power of a flash of lightning against a seemingly impenetrable rock. All right, moving on, page 84. 3 sevens. Introduction to Ancient Initiation. That great rift in the mountain has absorbed the whole of the waste material taken from all the rooms of the temple, save only that used in the building of outside steps, terraces, and colonnades. So they were building quite a structure here. All the lifting and carrying and carving has been done by the strong, deft agency of elemental force. So these beings they controlled. They do our menial work. This is what they were intended for. And if you read the stuff by the Jewish Utopia and Protocols of Zion by the Jewish folks and their New World Order, ruling the world from Mount Zion, Tel Aviv, and Jerusalem, they think we non-Jews were put on this earth to serve them. FYI. Unrestrained, they grow mischievous to man's plans because of the surplus of unemployed strength, but are not malignant. Mankind, in this age and in the nearest future ages, worshiping blindly a physical idea. So they think right now we're worshiping blindly this physical world we have. Will be content only with the making visible to his personal sense of some material form, which is but the outer garb of the elemental force. So we can see, understandably, that these secret societies worship the invisible forces, and I guess they think that we people who believe in the material world or live in the material world and are not spiritualist, that we're profane and animals. They don't think much of us. Might be wise for people to be aware of that. There is but one force, an emanation from the Supreme, which can be seized and apportioned in parcels by man. So they're saying these men, these initiates, can control the supernatural. These he names according to his fancies, having no regard for the reality of the thing itself. Potent thought first formulates out of the ever-present plastic material the things called elementals, having no intelligence of their own, but simply potency for accomplishment. There's some notes on the bottom of this page. Men avoid labor only to become entangled into the webs woven by their own unused energies. So you take all these cities in the United States, and I suspect around the world, where the jobs have been shipped to China, industry, manufacturing, and you got a lot of people unemployed. So seriously, there is a potential for an upheaval of the people. They can be stirred up quite easily, as we've been seeing. Teabaggers, Black Lives Matter, all these organizations sponsored by the rich elitists, apparently to bring about chaos and anarchy for some evil purpose, sinister purpose. And apparently they want to depopulate the planet, bring about some kind of new superhuman creatures. When the elemental forces within man's nature are constructively and wisely directed, they are capable of moving mountains. But neglected and unemployed, these same energies seek expression, sometimes in mischief, ignored and deliberately repressed. They may even become malicious. Creatively animated, these primal powers lift and carry and carve at man's command, and the waste material they throw into the great rift of the mountains. This powerful lesson signifies that man either must use his powers or become their victim. See what I'm saying? And the lesson applies to the man and the nation. See what I'm saying? This is what they think. One of our Egyptian brothers said, "The Lord God made man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. The making out of the dust of the ground was the formulating of elemental force. The breath of lives is intelligence, the mark set upon man by the infinite to distinguish him from other existences of the same grade of formation. Returning to the great hall of convocation," he continued, "our brothers take turns, day by day, week by week, at this work. It cannot be pursued uninterruptedly, for we incur the hostility of the unseen races." So it cannot be pursued uninterrupted because there's some other races that are hostile to them. First, in undertaking so vast a work, which shall be further extend and strengthen our authority, already obnoxious to them. So these unseen forces are the enemies of these brotherhoods building these great halls inside mountains. And there's things like Shambhala over there in the Himalayas. And remember that Busiji Mountains in Romania, the book I went over, Peter Moon's book, Transylvania Sunset. And monuments all over the world in Mexico, South America, in the mountains of Ecuador. I've gone over that. Eric von Donovich in his book, The Gold of the Gods. And they got these sheets about 3 feet high of gold with images of these beings on these sheets from the Ecuadorian mountains. And then we got the Hopi Indians and tribes all over the world who apparently built facilities inside mountains. The natives did this with the assistance of some superior beings so that they would survive the Great Flood, which is rather interesting. Whoever caused or knew the Great Flood was coming wanted to save a remnant of all the races on the planet. If you do some studying, you'll find all this is true. So apparently there is some hostility by unseen races. First, in undertaking so vast a work, which shall further extend and strengthen our authority, already obnoxious to them. Secondly, because of their sympathy with those who are forced to serve us. So these people who are attacking, these people building the cities inside the mountains, have sympathy for the creatures that are enslaved to work for them. You think? They impede us to the extent of their power. Consequently, we deem it best to have all the advantages possible in our favor. We work in pairs, by turns, resting between, and for 7 days, which bring the full moon, and on the 4th day, because of the inspiration of its highest rays, all occult powers for good develop their highest strength. So I guess working towards good is all relative. If you were the elitist building your elitist world, and you thought the rest of we non-illuminated people were just animals, so you'd have very little respect for these non-illuminated humans, we average citizens, and you could destroy them, depopulate the planet, because they are only animals, and hey, you're doing them a favor. You're setting their spirits and souls free from their agony and suffering as a human being. It's all perspective, I think. Those who travel the outer path seek, on the contrary, the absence of her light. Even the supreme intelligence itself, at the end of 7 days' exercise of the highest potency, is declared to have rested. So even in the Bible, the 10 Commandments, it says to rest on the 7th day, the Sabbath. So do we in this exercise our own potency. For my spirit, thirsting constantly for yet more and more instruction, the day flew on. There's a note on the bottom of this page. The woman clothed with the sun, and I guess that's called the illuminated soul. Just having a conversation here, reading what's in this book. Make of it what you will, but it does give us a bird's eye view of what they think and what they're doing, what they say they're doing, for us to know, or initiates to know. In a conversation, because I believe this book wasn't meant for everybody. In a conversation about the astral, my guru said, this is variously called astral light, astral fluid, or simply the astral. So that's when you leave your body, you're flying around in the astral world. And apparently we have astral bodies. It might be better be called the astral conditions, for out of it comes everything conceivable, and into it returns and is stored up all the essential essence of all things created and creatable. In it is recorded every thought, word or action occurring in the universe. I guess that would be the Akashic records. Spit the words out. Akashic records. The records of knowledge of everything that happened. Apparently people who are psychic can access the Akashic records and do psychic readings for people like Edgar Casey. In it is recorded every thought, word, or action occurring in the universe. The Infinite One looks upon it and sees even as we look upon our mentality and say, I remember. The astral then can well be called the divine memory. So the astral plane, the Akashic records, is maybe the divine memory. So no essence is lost, no force is lost, no effect of action is lost, but everything is recorded. If we have the key to the recording cipher and are in alignment with the truth, no knowledge is impossible for us to obtain. Remember, I think Nikola Tesla was accessing this. Even he said he was not a genius, that he was accessing some bank of knowledge, whether it was dreams, audio voices he could hear, or images. He was confessing these things when he got older on stage, and his handlers would go pull him off the stage and try to shut him up. Go read some books on Nikola Tesla. You'll see. And I found out a lot of the famous scientists of the old were into the psychic abilities and accessing some kind of divine universal knowledge. And remember, Atlantis and other societies, maybe like Hyperborea and other societies of the historic past, were apparently greater in their technological advances than we are today. So that information is accessible. And apparently the secret societies all over the planet are aware of it. And when things are discovered, organizations like this Smithsonian Institute and other organizations of the government swoop in and grab these discoveries or information and shut people up. A lot of that's documented. For example, in the Grand Canyon was a big cache, a whole cave full of ancient Egyptian gold monuments. Some miners found them, and of course the government swooped in, took everything, and used dynamite to close up the cave. They're keeping things from us, which is why I make these videos and do my research, because I think what we don't know, what they know, we're in a bit of a trouble, a big disadvantage. They use propaganda and the media, TV and all that, to lie to us, deceive us, for purposes of their own. Okay, some notes on the bottom here. This is known as the astral record, and in it is recorded and stored every thought, word, or action occurring in the universe. Occasionally, neophytes, initiates, of certain temperament developed through soul consciousness an ability to read these scrolls upon which all things that have been and all things yet to be are recorded. Yet to be. Few Occidentals possess this gift of soul sight, and few of those who possess it cultivate it. But Dr. P.B. Randolph, first Supreme Grand Master of the Rosicrucians, it's mentioned right here, page 86, in America, possessed the gift to a rare degree and cultivated it to a remarkable extent. So, I was thinking, and I've mentioned this before, if these people can see things yet to be, the future, do they see the citizens of the world rising up and overthrowing them for doing all the horrible things they've been doing to us, like World War I, World War II, 9/11, and so much more? And are they trying to prepare for that event with FEMA camps and hollow point bullets and all this other stuff going on? Interesting question. If they can see into the future, do they see something that scares them? And we the people are the threat. It seems so. In the Rosicrucian school of this practice, followed by the master initiates of all ages, is known as blending. Dr. P.B. Randolph discusses the method quite clearly in his book, The Soul World, written in 1861. I suppose I'll have to look up that book and get it, and read it, and share it. The careful wording of this statement should be studied, for it implies that the capability of the controlling a power should be developed before an attempt is made to utilize it. When this capability has been developed, the necessary forces and energies we seek belong to us if we can have the will to claim them. All things are ours in normal course as we follow the dictates of the law. Well, lest we forget, they're following a law that they're not sharing with us. And they think we're animals, and apparently they plan on depopulating the planet, creating a new age, new world order, destroying Christianity, and forcing this new decadent sexual revolution on everybody that seems kind of perverted, even eliminating the age of consent for children to have sex with adults, even professors writing essays and papers that saying it's normal for men to have an attraction for children for sex. Crazy? Raping men, raping women, raping children, raping animals. If we have the key of the recording cipher and are in alignment with the truth, no knowledge is impossible for us to obtain. Us to obtain. They're not talking about us, me, and you probably. No power that we can handle is beyond our grasp. No wish that we are strong enough to accomplish can be denied us. Wow, these are the secret societies ruling our world. Failure to receive is simply the consequence of our own weakness. Everything is ours and is fully prepared for us when we are ready. How many years of vexations, reincarnations, vexatious reincarnation are necessary to bring us to the acknowledgement of this truth even to ourselves. So they're saying these people, these initiates, get to be reincarnated, maybe like the rest of us, but they get to maintain their memory. They know who they were in this new incarnation, and they're continuing forward with their project. A serious, large amount of notes here on the bottom of this page, so I guess I'll read them. A wish that we are strong enough to accomplish cannot be denied us, provided we apply our strength to secure its accomplishment. The great tragedy of mortal existence arises from man's tendency to wish without utilizing the power that he possesses to make the wish come true. A wish, before it has become intensified by accompanying effort, is but a fantasy, an insubstantial daydream, which too often acts merely on an opaque, dulling the life forces and poisoning the aspirants with melancholy and morbility. Try, that's the name of this book, Try, on the cover, T-R-Y. Try symbolizes the method through which all evocation is accomplished. Failure is a small price to pay for the consciousness that we have at least tried. So I guess they feel that they have to try, like it says there on that little symbol. And I guess if you try and try hard enough with will and study, you will accomplish. And they do want to bring about a new age and a new world order and microchip the humans they leave alive after they depopulate the planet. Just saying. It is what it is. If you pay attention to what they're doing and the outcome, controlling the weather, sky spraying, HARP transmitters, environmental destruction, economic destruction, and blaming it on we the people. They want us to feel guilty for something they're doing. These people are geniuses at evil psychology. It's a new word I made up. 2 words. Evil psychology. Nothing is ours until we have earned it. Everything is ours when we are ready. The lives of the masters exemplifying their teachings that we labor and sacrifice and suffer to attain our ideals. So are we rewarded in achievement. Remember, this is for the initiates. This is what they're taught. It's not what we're taught citizens. Matter of fact, we're taught to be dumbed down and mesmerized and hypnotized and beguiled and deceived with propaganda to almost think like zombies. Neither material nor spiritual values may be held unless they have been earned, and the attempt to secure either without paying inevitably must result in loss. The law of compensation is but an expression of the law of action and reaction, and underlies the principle known in the occult as karma. The contemporary age, with all its false material perspectiveness, is futility struggling against these fundamental and confusing reigns as a consequence. Beware of those who promise something for nothing and without effort, for they promise but a fool's paradise. And there's a good example of why we should be opposed to the kind of socialism they're giving people today, free food, welfare, and other checks. The problem with getting addicted to that or living off of that without preparing for a future event if they pull that away, the food stamps and Social Security checks. So if everybody lives day by day, if they ever turn the switch off, the powers that rule our world, these secret society people, we will all get caught with our pants down, so to speak. We will not be prepared. And we need to be prepared. Another reason why I make these videos, for people to think and pray, because we do have power. God does listen. They have their God, these satanic luciferic deity, cast out of heaven. So I think we should be with the God that cast the Lucifer out and sent his son Jesus to teach us to treat each other how we want to be treated. Whether you believe or not, treating each other how you want to be treated is just a good idea. The 10 Commandments, don't kill and don't steal, are just good ideas. And they're commandments, they're not suggestions. But the people who rule our planet, as we are all aware, are killing and stealing like there's no tomorrow. I don't believe what people say, I believe what people do. And that's what they're doing. They're stealing the world. With the sustainability, Agenda 21 and other stuff going on, biodiversity programs coming out of the United Nations, they plan on fencing off more than half of the property of the United States, closing exits, rural exits off the interstate systems, and moving the people from rural America into the big cities, where I suppose they could be neutralized or liquidated much easier. I think they need people around for something. Probably for food, for work, for sexual slaves. Kind of sinister thinking, I know. But look what's going on in the world. Tell it to the Arabs. The bombs over there, the planes that are bombing their cities and homes today. August 21st, 2016. It was in the news this morning that apparently in Gaza, a couple missiles were launched at Israel. So today Israel is retaliating. And I'm scratching my head. There's hardly any Palestinians left. The whole territory is fenced off. They have no jobs and money. Even the olive orchards and everything else in their homes have been destroyed. Where did they get any missiles? And what fool would launch any missiles to know that you and your children are going to further be destroyed? It wouldn't happen. I suspect it's paid mercenaries by the Israeli Zionist folks the New World Order, New Age folks, giving them justification to neutralize and murder the rest of the Palestinians that are there. Google just recently, according to one press release or information source I got, took the word Palestine off the map in that region. What gave them the right, other than the fact that the owner of Google is an Israeli citizen? The CEO, Eric Schmidt, who put his name in a numerology calculator at 666. Kind of creepy stuff going on. Back to the book. No spiritual value can be gained without sacrifice of something to which has been attached. The shackles through which man is bound by his lower consciousness to his animal nature are merely the illusions of what constitute true values. So I guess they think that my soul is shackled down to this body. They don't think we have any capability of reasoning and thinking. I think they're wrong. It is to lead man by gradual stages through this realm of the shadow that the inspired and illuminated soul labors, until the light of the real dawns pure and clear, and the illusions of the lower consciousness disappear within the mist of ignorance. Man will be attracted again and again into physical forms. So again, they're disparaging the fact that we do get born, these spiritual beings, me, into this biological body, me. So they want to discourage that. The masters of all ages have inculcated the principle that if man will but submit to the pains of developing himself, he may open the doors to all wisdom. Any dogma, doctrine, formula that offers the proposition that man can achieve wisdom without undergoing the ordeals of self-regeneration is false on the face of it. All right, it's Monday, August 22nd. So I'm going to finish the second half of this video today. But I thought a little disclaimer is probably appropriate. I don't subscribe to the teachings in the Rosicrucian books, nor the secret societies of the Freemasons, Illuminati, Zionists, and of course the Jesuits of the Catholic Church. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic Church. The current Pope is a Jesuit. And those are the enforcers, the military arm of the church. Apparently in September this year, 2016, a month away, the Pope will be going to Jerusalem, as I understand it. And there will be something like a 10-day consecration. What's a consecration? Isn't that when you deify something? And it'll be a gathering of the leaders of all the religions in the world. And apparently a consecration to a uniting of all those religions, sorting them all out and coming to agreements to have one world religion. Me, I believe that God sent Jesus. Now remember, we're biological entities, we humans. We're spirits, souls. Without them, this biological body would probably just plop over dead. So Jesus was in the flesh, but he had a spirit and a soul, which was of God. And God said, listen to my son, who I am well pleased. Look that up in the Bible. And the teachings were, treat others how you want to be treated. And then if you back up a couple thousand years, almost 2,000, When Moses helped the Hebrews, I don't like the word Jews, by the way. I'd like to call them Hebrews, but I think they can't call the people in Israel Hebrews because I don't think they're actually descendants of Hebrews. From the Middle East and Egypt, they would have been brown people, not white people like you see today in Israel. And of course, Revelation 9 in the Bible says Jews who call themselves Jews but are not. They didn't even have the word Jews back then. They didn't have the letter J in the alphabet. I think Jesus was called Yiwa or something, a different spelling. So my point is, things aren't what they seem. And this 10-day or ceremonies of a gathering of all the religious leaders of the world, September 2016, look this up, and a consecration for 10 days. I don't know when, whatever will happen, but like 911, it will catch us all off guard. It'll catch us by surprise. We won't be expecting it. We won't know how to deal with it. We won't know how to react. We'll believe what's on the TV, the media. So with that said, I'm going to continue reading this, but I just wanted to make a little disclaimer there. I'm not trying to teach this material as gospel. I'm basically, 11 years ago, wanted to start this research because I wanted to find out what the heck is going on. As simple as that. I didn't know what I know now. Not that I'm a genius. I read a lot of books. I beat the subject to death. Everything from aliens, Philadelphia experiment where the ship disappeared, Jacob's ladder, the 2 arcs of electricity and the 2 poles, where apparently you throw something into it and it moves in time. Project Montauk, throwing young boys into time tunnels, not knowing where they're going to wind up, not probably being able to retrieve them. And apparently piles of bones of young boys there at Project Montauk at the end of Long Island. Videos I watched of witchcraft covens with a van driving down the street and jumping out and abducting somebody to take them to do a sacrificial ritual. The Illuminati having sacrificial rituals, where apparently the human beings, the leaders, as they viciously tear into human beings, drinking the blood, eating the flesh, shapeshift into a reptilian form, the leader called a Pindar. Crazy stuff. The Bohemian Grove, Alex Jones went there and videoed the Bohemian Grove ritual where our presidents and leaders have been photographed having a gigantic owl and throwing a baby into the fire. Cremation of care. And the Talmudic or certain Jews, not all Jewish people, documented throughout history of abducting young boys, putting pins in them, hundreds of holes, collecting the blood to drink, which apparently puts them in some kind of euphoric state, not wanting that little boy to die too quickly. A horrible long death. And apparently a lot of people in the slaughterhouses where they do these kosher meats, they kill the animals in a very slow manner to bring about as much pain and suffering as they can. It just doesn't all make sense to me. It's just bizarre. So keeping all that in the context of our thinking and these book reviews I've been going over, just trying to find out what the heck is going on. I'm sticking with Jesus. I'm believing in Jesus. Whatever is about to happen, if it happens in my lifetime, I know what I think. I believe we should treat other people like we want to be treated. I don't think we should be killing all the people in the Middle East, the Arabs, and causing economic destruction all over the world. Preparing for some huge martial law or World War III if they can't obtain their new world order without launching the nukes, taking the planet down in a flaming inferno. It's a lot to say. So let me read on. Every aspect, this is some notes on the bottom of page 88 of universal law, as manifested by man or nature, testifies to the truth of the principle of evolution. Remember, I'm not advocating this material. I'm just studying it and seeing what they think. This principle, when consciously applied by the individual to himself, becomes the principle of transmutation, and only through its application can regeneration be accomplished. A higher ideal cannot be achieved except at the cost of a separation from the old. It is this parturition that is responsible for the pains inseparable from self-development. Man's interpretation of pain assumes a different aspects as he progresses on the path of self-imposed development. For he perceives to an increasing degree that the pain incident to bringing forth a new life is nothing as compared to the reward. So remember, these are the things they teach the initiates in these secret societies: Rosicrucianism, Freemasons, Illuminati, maybe Knights of Columbus, Knights of Malta, witchcraft covens, Illuminati, Kabbalah. We don't know what they teach. Sometimes you get a hold of a book like this. We can read it and discuss it like intelligent people and come up with our own conclusions. Why would they swear an oath under threat of death, having their throat cut or their stomach or whatever, not to divulge the secrets? Why? That doesn't sound like God or Jesus teaching to me. They don't keep the biblical 10 Commandments a secret, or Jesus is teaching to treat others how you want to be treated a secret. Moving on, again, page 88. All right, moving on. Whoever will take the pains to train himself can have at his command all the thoughts of the wise and good in all ages. It is best for him, always under all conditions and circumstances, to strengthen his own powers and not to depend upon the thoughts and deductions of other men. A little breezy out here. Save as starting points for his own reasoning. While he had been talking, I had been transcribing his words for further study when I should be by myself. Just at that point, I noticed with some little vexation that my inkhorn was empty. He, perceiving my plight, said, "Hand it to me." So this would be his giru. His inkhorn. Back then they dipped their pens in ink, little bottle of ink or jar of ink, and then they could write. But it was empty. So the giru says, "Hand it to me." On receiving it, he held it in an outstretched hand a single instant and returned it to me filled to the brim with the finest ink. So the giru was able to magically fill the ink container full of ink. "You see," he said, "supplies are everywhere. There is no desert so bare, no wilderness so solitary, but that the supplies necessary for life are close at hand for those who will and dare receive." Remember, I'm going over this material to try to explain to myself and those who view my videos what it means when we say occult and witchcraft. That all these lodges that operate in secret in all of our cities all over the world, what do they know that we don't know? What can they do that we can't do? And what do they want to keep from us? What do they want to do to us? What's the plans? From this time on, to both him and myself came often supplies for urgent needs out of the astral conditions. So they were pulling things out of the astral whenever they needed things. During the 9th month, my teacher's instructions were more and more pointedly directed towards the utter subjugation of all personal sensation and emotion to the power and direction of the Spirit. Not only was potency urged for any wish, but all wishes were to be deemed idle and a waste of time, which would not be esteemed worthy of enforcing with all the strength of possible power. As my Guru said, do not formulate any expression of will which has nothing to be gained by its attainment. It is worse than idle, for it divides and scatters force. And success depends always on the completeness of focalization. To be thoroughly master of self, one must be able to introvert their personal sense, and instead of receiving impressions from without, receive them from the inner. Instead of dealing with the manifestations of the physical, learn how to gain knowledge through the soul of the astral conditions. This is accomplished by meditation and by the help of introversion, passing into the regions of one's own mentality. He who stands face to face with his own soul accomplished very much in his journey towards final attainment. There was a little note on the bottom of this other page. The aspirant is taught here to correlate the forces of his own nature and to bring into unison the powers of the imagination. Pardon the interruption from the phone. Got to do my day job, pay the bills. Let me reread that. The aspirant is taught here to correlate the forces of his own nature and to bring into unison the powers of the imagination, desire, and will. When this lesson of concentration is learned and applied, each thought becomes a vital, potent energy. And remember, I'm not trying to teach occult sciences here. I do desire to open people's eyes and minds to apparently what these people think and what they publish, and the symbols, and consecrating to the circle of Isis. We hear so much about Isis and the all-seeing eye. It says right there, circle of Isis. Then you got the snake eating its tail. Remember, these symbols, I was just watching a video on this 2016, an event called Together. Apparently the Pope was there and getting all the religious peoples together. They had a big symbol of the snake eating its tail. We're talking about the same thing with this new age and new world order. We might want to just keep that in our mind when I'm reading this and when we see what they're doing. Apparently, like I said earlier, September 2016, they'll be having a consecration, to consecrate, some kind of religious term, for 10 days, and I suppose it's to consecrate something to a new deity. Will it be the husband of Isis, Osiris? And remember, Isis and Osiris had a son, Horus, and now it's represented by the all-seeing eye, which is on the US $1 bill. This stuff is real. What I'm reading here is in print. This is not a story. This is a Freemasonic, Rosicrucian, etc., Illuminati initiation information. This book wasn't meant for just anybody. My brother, tonight one comes to you to whom you are to listen, but not necessarily to obey. Whatever he may say to you must be judged by the merits in the light of your own knowledge. May it be well with thee. And I would say that to everybody right now when you see this stuff in the headlines in the news. don't believe what they're saying. There's a big deception planned, in my opinion, from the obvious things they're doing right now, like the crazy sky spraying here in the mountains of North Carolina, which I shall share at this very moment. There's little doubt in my mind that that's a spray line blowing apart. And over here, these other ones. Let's look off towards the east. See what we can see. Looks like they're having one crazy spray day today. And I'm saying all this stuff is connected to this New Age and New World Order stuff. Well, that's a spray line. And many more. And when they spread apart, you can see this stuff is blowing apart. Not condensation or gaseous humidity, but dumped chemicals in our sky. Which should concern everybody, in my opinion. And it is these people from the occult organizations, secret societies, that are ruling our world, controlling the United Nations, and dumping these chemicals in the sky. Consider all that. What's up? What's going on? Alright, back to the book. Just saying, all these things. The government buying 450 million hollow point bullets. Building all kinds of FEMA camps. Enacting legislation. Propaganda about biodiversity, sustainability. Sponsoring George Soros' Black Lives Matter. Creating things like the Tea Party. And this farce of an election with the two choices, in my opinion, of Hillary Clinton, like we need another Clinton, and Donald Trump, like we need a real estate Mongol to be president. It's got to be better people out there, but they don't want to give us better people. That's not the plan for this New Age and New World Order, which comes from the occult secret societies. So that's why I'm reading this book. At midnight, a slight touch awoke me from a sound sleep. This would be the initiate we're talking about. Springing to my feet, I confronted a tall, ashy gray robed figure who held in his left hand a crystal globe that glimmered and sparkled like a big glowworm. In husky tones, he said, "Come with me." You like my acting? Perceiving him to be one of the attendant elementals, we got these beings calling elementals. Be interesting to look that up on Yahoo image site, elementals. I should have refused to comply if I had not remembered my Guru's parting words. Some notes on the bottom of this page. In this admonition is the essence of the teachings of the School of Initiation. This is an avocation of the Rosicrucian fraternity throughout its history and veils a sublime mystery of regeneration. Words Rosicrucian are right there. Page 90 on the bottom. Anyway, so the initiates going with this elemental, some kind of big creature. Walking rapidly through the various windings, we come at last to a blank wall entirely barring our passage. I followed him into a vast room whose floor, roof, walls were one huge deposit of gold, out of which the room had been hollowed. On every hand were great heaps of the yellow metal, and precious stones of every description, named on earth, were piled up, any one of which would have sufficed to a monarch's ransom. Waiting a moment or two until my dazed senses could comprehend that more than the earth's known wealth was in sight here, the guardian said. I am bidden to tell thee that 1/15 of all this treasure is thine. I will transport it for thee wherever thou seest fit. Thou hast been in the world. Thou knowest what it can bring to thee, and all that man deems most desirable. Imagine all the more money than you could ever need. Beauty, luxury, and power are all purchasable, and wealth recreates itself. Thy share is freely offered thee. But thou must also know, if taking thy portion, thou wilt go into a far country, thou shalt no more return hither, nor again meet the brotherhood in this incarnation, nor perhaps in many others, for its karma lies heavy on the shoulders of him who may undertake to bear it. Choose freely, and go thy way if thou wilt. So he's offered an immense treasure, but he has to leave the brotherhood, never to return. For an instant, visions of all the elegance, ease, and efficiencies such boundless wealth could command among men fitted before me. Then, like the aroma of sweet flowers that had bloomed long ago, came the memory of my instructor's words. God is all, the only real. All else is as unreal as the baseless fabric of a dream. My courage and strength came back to me. Raising to my full stature, I ordered my guide to conduct me hence, for this wealth had no value for me when weighed against the privilege of the brotherhood. Privileges of the brotherhood. My guide reconducted me to my own apartment and suddenly vanished without taking the trouble to walk away. In the morning, on meeting my Guru, a grave smile overspread his face as he said, "And thou hast learned the true value of riches. It is well." As we sat at work in the laboratory, a letter drops without warning upon the open scroll before him. He looks at the subscription and breaks the seal. After reading, he hands me the following. So a letter appeared right out of thin air. So Madrid, Spain, here's the letter. To the brother in charge, say to our youngest brother, the heir to the throne of Spain, standing between him and the succession, has passed into the invisible. So the person who was supposed to be the next king of Spain has died. He has entered to the scepter. If he shall so choose, he can be at once transported hither, and his rights maintained. Let us know his decision at once, fraternally, he who watches. So apparently this initiate is being offered the throne of Spain. Another note on the bottom of this page. This is an ordeal of true initiation, more real than fanciful. For in the experience of each neophyte, there comes the time when he must face the alternative either of utilizing the powers with which he developed has vested him for selfish and material gain, or the concentrating them towards the attainment of his ideal. So the Guru asked him, "What is your answer?" said my teacher. "May I ask you 2 questions?" says the initiate. "Certainly. Can I, by acceptance, be of any benefit to the brotherhood?" "Not the slightest," was the answer. "Shall I be cut off from the brotherhood henceforth?" "Most certainly." "Then say to him from me, the next heir is more willing and needy than I. Let him receive it." So he's passing on inheriting the throne. My Guru bowed his head in silent assent. Then taking a sheet of parchment, he wrote thereon, folded it, and sealed it, posing it at the end of his stylus. In my full sight, it vanished into thin air. Now on the morrow would commence the 12th and last month of my probation, the Guru said. Heretofore, you have had help and companionship to sustain you in the trials, but now, for months to come, you must alone meet your last trial of the novatite. Tomorrow at sunrise, you will be conducted to the Mount of Fasting. For 30 days, save water from the spring, no sustenance will pass your lips. And there's some notes on the bottom of this page. An ordeal all must undergo in search for the Holy Grail. The aspirant who is in his hunger for personal glory and mortal power leaves the path to gratify his vanity and self-pride, sacrifices his relationship with the brotherhood. After the attainment of Christhood, the Master Jesus was confronted with this temptation, and to it he responded, "Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve." So even in this Rosicrucian material, they acknowledge that Jesus Christ was real. I've noticed that in a lot of these books from the Freemasons, Illuminati, rabbis, Marvin Ampleman. Nowhere in any of the material that I have gone over did they try to say that Jesus was just a myth and didn't exist. But the public out there, people we know on the streets, have been so brainwashed, zombified, I like to call it, not using their God-given brain, not being discerning to know how to make correct judgments, will believe that there's no God and there's no life after death. So many people have been brainwashed. But what do these people running our world really think? What is this new age? What is this in September 2016? I'm saying the word wrong, consecration. Of what? For 10 days by all the leaders of all the churches from all over the country meeting over in Israel, Jerusalem, etc. Or that big event in France, 2016, an event called Together 2016. With all these seemingly mystery school of Babylon occultism in the symbols, the snake eating its tail. It's like it shows you in this book. On the membership card, the snake is eating its tail. With that thing looks like an earth and wings. And it says Circle of Isis. What is it going to take for people to get it? I'm trying to get it. I'm learning like anybody else who's searching the truth. But I've made my decision. I'm sticking with Jesus and believing in Jesus because of whatever event is supposed to happen according to the Bible. You can be saved and not have to participate in this whatever's going to happen in the new age and the new world order. I will resist being microchipped and swearing allegiance to Lucifer or Cyrus or whatever deity they come up with. Maitreya, Satan. I read this stuff. Alright, I think I'll try to finish up this video. So the Guru says you are to sustain your physical self upon that which you have learned. Be faithful, be strong. Let your thought dwell constantly in the contemplation of good. Farewell. After the first 3 days, the imperative call for the body for food ceased, and the chains which bind together the body and the spirit loosed their tension. Every morning at sunrise I drank a few swallows from the spring, then laved my face, hands, and feet in the stream issuing from it. Then going back to my cell, I gave myself up to communion with the silence. Alright, some notes on the bottom of this page, 94. This incident, too, has analogy in biblical parable. It implies that the path of initiation, the aspirant must face each animal propensity within his nature and render it subservient to his ideal. His greatest ordeal lies in the conquest, or rather transmutation, of the appetites and habits which enslave and imprison him. Since all things are for man's proper use, the continuous practice of rigid asceticism is too often a mockery, clothing hypocrisy, false purpose, and self-immolation. The man who aspires to mastership aspires to freedom, and no man dares call himself free who is enslaved by any appetite or habit. This is the issue, and it must be met by each one on his path to initiation. So you got to get rid of all your bad habits and desires, worldly desires. The physical body must be tendered its due, and so must be provided with the proper nourishment for its sustainment. When the body is denied nourishment at the instance of gross or greedy taste and appetite, it should occasion no surprise if it refuses to remain a good servant. But aside from the physical aspect, when the animal appetites are fed, they soon come into command. Their demands become insatiable. The soul is fettered and the spirit vitiated. This lesson signifies that when the physical body is recognized in its true value as a vehicle through which the soul may function in its quest for experience, the physical loosens the thralls with which it has bound the soul. It demonstrates further that in the rarefied atmosphere and silence, when the aspirant holds communion with the eternal and infinite, little sustenance suffices for his physical needs. So I guess they don't look kindly on us humans, acting like humans. Drinking wine, eating good food, going sailing, boating, and enjoying the things people like to enjoy. So like I said, I don't subscribe to this stuff. I'm just trying to get inside their head and see what they think. So back to the initiate. I gave myself up to communion with the silence, musing on the infinity and eternity of the one only God. So these people are seriously into meditation. Look how many people are into yoga right now and meditating, following these kinds of teachings. Are they of God or are they of Lucifer, Osiris, Isis? That's mentioned in this book, the Rosicrucians. Losing my sense of self in this exercise, I would perhaps pass unheeding into the hours of the night, or the first beams of morrow's rising sun would find me still astonished at the immensity of the soul of the universe. So he's leaving his body and he's checking out the astral plane. Being one with the universe. Where do you see what's next? As the days went by, the veil which separates man from the Creator grew thinner and thinner. The spirit, no longer checked by the importunities and retarded weight of the physical expression, exultantly soared lighter and lighter. So he's able to astral travel and see everything. Passing the cherubims and the flaming sword, which turns every way, it passed on and on until the great white throne, symbol of the omnipotence, became continual sight. So he says his soul is passing the cherubims, and the flaming sword turning every which way. Do you know what that means? In the Garden of Eden, when the serpent convinced Adam and Eve to eat the apple from the tree of knowledge, and then when God came into the Garden of Eden, he was looking for Adam and Eve. Adam, Eve, where are you? And they said, we're in here, we're hiding in the bushes, we're naked. And God says, who told you you were naked? Did you eat of the tree of knowledge, the apple? Yes, we did. The serpent said it was okay. So anyways, God kicked them out, using plain English here, of the Garden of Eden, and says you will go live as men and have to farm and grow your food and all that stuff. And in the entryway of the Garden of Eden, he put a cherubim with a flaming sword, swishing it every which way, so they couldn't trespass back into the Garden of Eden and eat from the other tree, the tree of life, eternal life. That's in the Bible. And it was a cherubim put in charge. This guy, in this initiate, is not eating for a whole month, meditating, living off of the water from the spring. He's experiencing greater and greater spiritual reality. And it says here he's able to pass the cherubims and the flaming sword, which turns every way. It passed on and on until the great white throne, symbol of the omnipotence, became a continual sight. Time for me ceased to exist. So time ceased to exist. They who at the time unknown to me watched my welfare say my ecstasy and uplifting increased from day to day. So he was able to pass the cherubim that God put to guard the Garden of Eden with the flaming sword. So this stuff is jiving with some of the stuff in the Bible. So I thought, as usual, I went to my shoebox is full of pictures, and I thought we'd have a little picture shoot, look at a little cherubim. Interesting creatures, some with the animal heads, 4 heads, and that looks like, is that God or whoever in the background with the sun's rays? Is it the cast out angel? See the little guy there with the wings? The little kids with the wings? Something a little freaky about this. I went on Yahoo image site and plugged in cherubims. And there's a link there that tells you what they mean. Look at all the eyes on these wings. The different kinds of heads. So what are we to believe? Are we to believe this reality doesn't exist? All those secret mystery school lodges, Freemasons, Rosicrucian, Illuminati, other organizations all over the world, and biblical symbolism, the beings with the wings. The universal mother spirit, the sonobim, the cherubim, and the new separum. What are aliens and UFOs? What is history in the Bible? What is the Ark of the Covenant? What are cherubims? Angels, divas, genie, reptilians, gray aliens, pixies. You go online and see some of those workshops where they're talking about the New Age religion theology. And ye are of gods. I can see the pixies here. They're telling me what to tell you. The cherubim are here. The angels are here. The Palladians are here. Go watch those ladies doing the workshops on the New Age. The Palladians are here. Syrians are here too. You can't see them, but I can see them. You are of God. You are all. You are one. Go watch that stuff. It's being propagated out there all the time, even on cartoons for kids. Now they're going to have this 10-day religious gatherings of leaders from all over the world in Jerusalem, is it? And have a consecration. To consecrate something. Like when some prophet of old, they decide to make him a saint, they consecrate him. So for 10 days, what are they going to consecrate with all these leaders from all the religions? Are they going to come up with a new God? You've seen what I've been reading in this book here. Look at the symbol on the bottom there. Cherubims. What are we talking about? What's with these creatures of ancient monuments? What kind of religion do they want to bring back after thousands of years? I'm curious. You can find these images on the Yahoo image site, plug in cherubims. Fascinating. You can plug in all kinds of things. What are these beings? Why are the monuments of these little cherubims all over the planet? Even those gargoyles and dragons on buildings. And look at this creature, cartoon character or something, with an eye in its hand. And eyes in its wings, and the flaming sword. Ancient art. King Solomon's temple. Doesn't look too good to me. I'll pass on that one. Games, cartoons, the Ark of the Covenant, religious pictures. Look at the cherubim flying in the background. Six-pointed star on the bottom. Wouldn't that be the symbol on the Israeli flag? So anyways, you can find these pictures on the cherubim on Yahoo image site. I encourage you to go look it up. And they have links and tell you where these pictures came from. Talk about an education. So that they who at the time, according to this initiate, fasting for 30 days, drinking only water, all by himself. They who at that time, unknown to me, watched my welfare, saved my ecstasy, and uplifting increased from day to day. On the morning of the 28th day, I drank from the spring for the last time. Retiring to my couch, lie down to meditate. All consciousness of physical weakness or bonds had entirely disappeared. My body showed no sign of weakness. My face was lighted up, as are always the faces of those who are permitted to approach the Mount of Presence. This is the story of the Watchers. And apparently when Moses went up to the mountain to get the 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets, when he came down, his face was lighted up when he came in the presence of God. A little more here and I'll finish this video, maybe do another video from this book. Hope I'm making my point here. There's more to the occult than people know. I'm learning by reading this material myself. So page 96. There in the midst of life, in its principle, enwrapped in the oneness of all, gazing with unquenched aspiration for knowledge at the light. It's always about the light. The truth toward which in my soul there was not the least shade of opposition, but only the most perfect alignment and harmony came out of the silence to my inner sense, the still small voice saying, "My son, to him that overcometh, will I give the crown of lives." As the sun went down, I came back to the present, and my guru came also. Pardon some of my pronunciations. My brother, thy face tells the story. The light that is not on land nor sea is upon it. It shines as did the face of one of our brothers in olden time who underwent a similar ordeal. Then he put forth his hand, and with a strong grip of the brotherhood, lifted me to my feet. I was bathed in substance, which man outside the brotherhood knows not, of was given to me for refreshment of the body. So I guess he was given some strange food and drink. Some notes on the bottom of this page. He who governs himself is greater than he who taketh a city. No conquest is greater than the triumph of the higher over the lower consciousnesses. Only then does the soul actually come into dominion over the flesh and the senses. Only when man governs himself may this still small voice of intuition serve as a guide, and the light appear which is on neither land nor sea. It is through attention and obedience to the great occult arcana taught in the schools of initiation that man may learn to govern himself. Once more, the initiate says, clothed in clean white linen robes, I stood in the hall of obligation, kneeling before the invisible occupant of the throne. These words from our elder brother came to my ears. My younger brother, so far as thou hast proved, thou hast borne thyself fearlessly and courageously, and thou hast made much progress for thyself into the realms of the unseen. This thou hast done, aided, directed, and watched over by our immediate presence, protected from opposing forces by the potency of our wills, even as the tender infant is cherished by the arms of its parent. We have given you the theorems, the formulas. Are you willing to undertake a demonstration? The initiate says he bowed in assent, so he agreed. You will be conducted from here to your native land. There you will take up the thread of mortal life, to live and act as thou had been taught in the light of the real. Thou shalt seek no fellowship with, nor have any dependence upon, the transitory unrealities of time and sense. If at the end of 7 years thy conscience is clear of intent to offend, thou mayest return hither and claim for thyself the degree of the initiate, and so be able to solve the mysteries of the second gate. May truth, peace dwell with thee. Remember the obligation of the novitate. Thus gently drop the veil of separation, until 7 years shall roll over my head. Alright, that's enough of this video. I hope it kind of shows a little bit more about these mystery school of Babylon, these secret societies that are barred from the public, the profane, or as the Zionist Jews call us, goy or goyim cattle. H.G. Wells says we're animals not to be trusted. And of course the Freemasons and all those lodges call us profane. So I read a little bit from a seemingly interesting book. There's plenty more to go, at least another video. So thank you for watching my video. Leave a comment below. Give me a thumbs up if you like what I'm doing. And it's all about trying to figure out what the heck is going on in this reality. Why are they going to have a 10-day event over there in Jerusalem, I think? Saying the word. Consecration. Where they're going to consecrate something with a gathering of all the religious leaders. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.